Hey guys, Jason here, and today I want to stop by and do another 5-minute lesson about the benefits or sometimes the downside or the upside of owning versus renting. As property investors, often we ask ourselves, should we buy our own home, or what if we do have our own home? How can I use that as leverage, as many people need to do, because that's the asset that we have to work with. So owning your own home, or renting, or a combination. Let's go through a few benefits, upsides, downsides today about owning or renting. So let's start with owning. When you purchase your property, the number one thing when you own your own home, the number one benefit of owning your own home, well, I'm going to talk commercially, owning your own home, is it is capital gains tax free. It's one of the only assets you will ever own that you will not have to pay tax on when and if you sell that property, and that's a great benefit. One of the things when you're planning on a retirement strategy or an exit strategy or whatever that might be, you've got to understand that maybe at some point many of us will sell our primary place of residence, our home, and we want a capital gains tax-free lump sum. Preferably by that stage we want it to be debt-free, okay? As you own your own home, and over time you build equity. You build equity, which is deposits. Deposits build up because the property value goes up and you pay some of that loan off, which is awesome. And some of the stuff, the cost of moving around and faffing around, owning your own home gives you some great benefits in that space. What are some of the downsides of owning your own property when it comes to commercial? It reduces your serviceability. Your mortgage, where you live, or the house that you live in, the mortgage reduces your ability to service investment loans or investment properties, okay? And so it certainly does dampen that, and that's why when we talk about having a strategy, we talk about having a strategy of paying that home loan off fast and using the equity, if you do draw it out, for investment purposes. When you use that investment purposes, it is then tax deductible, and the rent adds to your servicing. Maintenance. You have maintenance. Anything that breaks down or goes wrong in that property is yours. And again, it kind of ties into servicing. The lenders sort of penalise you from a calculation point of view, owning that property. And sometimes, often, we are where we get to own our property is location based on budget. So we might work in the city, or we might work somewhere, but we can't afford to live right near there. And because we choose to buy a property a bit further away, there's higher travel costs and other associated downsides of that sort of thing. So there's some pluses and minuses. On the renting side, and I'm going to connect these together, you can get a far cheaper / better location for the price 9 times out of 10 in many of the cities around Australia, depending on the interest rates. But at the moment, many places you can rent a better location, closer to work, closer to transport, closer to your hobbies, lifestyle, etc. So sometimes that's a good advantage. There's no maintenance when you rent, and it's easier to move around and try a few locations out. What's the downside? You're not building any equity. It's not yours, so you can be either kicked out or moved on or given notice, and you can't improve a property when you're renting it. So there's pluses and minuses on both sides. Over this side, when you rent, your serviceability is a little bit better when it comes to. Now, if you're paying a mortgage on your own home, let's say $450 at 5%, $2,000. If you're renting something very similar, $1,600. Now, the point of this is, it's not like don't buy your home and only rent. The point is, if you are going to rent for certain reasons, which might be serviceability, might be unlocking your equity and so on, you've got to do something with that extra dollars and cents. Many of our clients have been able to move out of their properties and rent their PPR out, rent that property. And when you rent that property now, this debt is tax deductible. It's tax deductible, so you can get a tax deduction. This property is still capital gains tax free for 6 years. So sometimes you might need to unlock your equity. You might want to move from this property. Maybe it's not the property you want to be in, for schools for the kids, for work and so on. Maybe that's because you purchased it because that's all you could afford at the time. Maybe it's time to have a little look at, is this property helping you go forward, or maybe is it holding you back? If your plan is to invest, unlock the equity, use some of that equity and the serviceability to get another investment property or two. So many times when you unlock this, it moves you, you go to rent. Now renting, now again over here, your serviceability improves because you get rent from here, you get tax deduction from here, you unlock the equity from here, and now you can go buy investment property 1 and 2 and so on. So guys, and another thing as well, sometimes where you live, e.g. let's say Sydney or Melbourne, you can't afford to buy your own home, and so you might rent and you might invest interstate in another state because you need to get on the property ladder. You want to start that investment journey, and sometimes it's smart to do that for a period of time to build equity elsewhere, not where you live, because you can't afford to enter the market. So guys, there's a few little tips today about your own home, renting, and making sure we understand the pluses and negatives and how we might be able to take advantage of that. As always, leave us a few comments on something you might want me to cover in the 5-minute lessons. Hopefully that was useful today. Until I see you in person, bye for now. Take care.